Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic and the date today is Sunday, October 13th, 2024. I've been doing a countdown of my favorite video games of all time through each day of the year, and coming in at number 80 is Sid Meier's Civilization V.
Through years of glorious conquest, Rome came to dominate all the lands of the Mediterranean, from Spain in the west to Syria in the east, and her dominion would eventually expand to cover much of England and northern Germany. Roman art and architecture still awe and inspire the world, and she remains the envy of all lesser civilizations who have followed. O mighty Emperor, your people turn to you to once more reclaim the glory of Rome. Will you see to it that your empire rises again, bringing peace and order to all? Will you make Rome once again center of the world? Can you build a civilization that will stand the test of time?
The Civilization franchise has spent a lot of time holding true to the concept of not fixing things that aren't broken. You start with basically nothing and build up an entire nation, developing technology and agriculture, settling and growing cities, defending yourself from outside threats. Maybe you are the outside threat and seek to win the game via military domination. Maybe you want to be friends with everyone and get a cultural victory. Maybe you're just better than everyone else and get a technological victory. Maybe none of that matters to you and you just want a ton of money with an economic victory. Or finally, perhaps your aspirations transcend this mortal plane and you are striving for a religious victory. This has always been the defining feature of the Civilization franchise, and, well, those aren't going anywhere. That being said, Civ 5 did try to fix things that weren't broken, and it worked. Ever since the first Civilization game, you could only move units up, down, left, or right in a square pattern. But now, you can move in a hexagonal grid. This has rippling effects through many facets of the game. First, and most immediately noticeable, this means you can get more surface area on attacking key locations, like opposing cities. To go along with this, in a large change to combat, you can no longer stack multiple friendly military units in the same tile and have them join each other as a larger army, instead needing to use this additional space and spread out with more of an emphasis on interesting tactical decisions. This then has a further ripple effect of changing how city defense works. Since you can no longer garrison stacks of units in your city, cities defend themselves with a ranged volley attack, and you can of course have your own units work the surrounding area as well for extra protection. With the game you're seeing here, I'm playing as the Romans and I'm trying for a military victory. I don't actually do this very often, usually just going for one of the more nebulous win conditions, but I wanted to showcase the strengths of the hex grid movement system, and I have to say, military games are way more fun in Civ 5 than in any of the others, where the plan often becomes just stacking one or two military forces sky high in one location to overwhelm a city's sky high garrisoned defenses. The other thing that makes military conquests more interesting in Civ 5, and this is a big addition to the games, is city-states. There are non-nation cities you can interact with via trade, culture, and everything else, but they just don't belong to another player, so some of that's a little limited. They help fill the world with interesting locations, and can even make open requests with rewards for the first civilization to fulfill them, like specific trade goods wanting to be connected to their network, or dealing with nearby barbarian camps. But you can also, kill them. Anytime you gain control of a city, you can annex it, destroy it, or set up a puppet state, each with their own strategic advantages. Of course, going for military dominance, I just took control of them all. After all, more cities means more production. But taking over all of these city-states meant that I was fighting a war on all fronts the entire game, especially as it dragged on and all of the other nations were like, hey, you've been like killing people for like 1,000 years. Maybe we shouldn't be friends with you. Took them long enough. But with the increased tactical nature of army positioning and movement in this game, it was a lot to keep track of, and I mean that in a good way. I was having to divert forces in every direction, which helped when I was able to take control of my whole continent and then kind of branch out from there. And once I got military control over the waters and then eventually into the air, it kind of snowballed in a way that it was difficult for other nations to keep up, and it was great. But exciting military options aren't the only thing you can get to be extra strategic about in this game. When talking about civilization games, it's easy to conflate culture with the arts and entertainment, because that's how you win the game with it. In fact, in real life it's easy to think of this too, but really when you get down to it, the anthropological definition of culture is much more broad. Pretty much anything any group of people does or thinks as a part of a larger whole can relate to its culture on the grand scale. So cultural points actually matter for every type of win condition and every strategy in Civilization 5. Your culture can be militaristic or technological or financial as much as it can be the arts. These are all cultures. As you earn points, you can spend them on different bonuses via various ideologies, allowing civilizations to diverge in strengths and weaknesses so much more than in any of the previous Civilization games, and this is what I think makes this the best one in the whole franchise, bearing in mind I have not played Civ 6, so I have no opinion there yet. Being able to play all of these different factions with their own unique bonuses and advantages, while exploring tons of different ideologies and bonuses that evolve over the course of each game, makes this really one of the most replayable games of all time, not just because it's fun, but because you could play literally like 1,000 games of it, and each one could feel different. I've enjoyed replaying some of the older titles this year for these videos, but after finally reaching 5 again, well, let's just say I got a little too sucked into this one, and I put like 10 hours of gameplay into making this like 6-minute video. So that was a great use of my time. But you can join me tomorrow as I talk about my 79th favorite game, where I have never been more comforted by the Energizer Bunny.